Now, there is I think it's a triptych of several panels, the bright colors in the small room, and I didn't see the presence of a figure in that one, unless I just didn't observe it yet. But if there is no figure there, is there any difference in your mind between the painting with the figure and without the figure?
Yeah, that piece, I've gotten that question a lot. That piece, I had a really hard time deciding on what to do with it. I knew the person, it's one of my best friends who that represents, and her characteristic is intentionality. She's a very bold person. With everything she does it with meaning. And I knew exactly the colors and kind of the shapes and movement I wanted across the canvas, which I created with the paint, but I wasn't sure how to incorporate a figure with that. How do you display intentionality with the human body? And so I struggled back and forth with it for probably a month. I could not decide what to do with it. And finally, after thinking about it, I thought, I don't think it necessarily needs a figure. I think it's bold enough in the way the colors are and the movement of the paint. And also, if I'm trying to truly display that it's not about what a person does that makes them who it is, makes them who they are. It's about what a person emotionally can offer to another person or to the people around them. I think it displays that it's not, there doesn't need to be the presence of necessarily a actual physical human person. It's completely emotional, completely relational.
Great, thank you.
The rabbits I started drawing a couple years ago, and I just continued to do this work, but they work really well because they already, again, carry symbolism without me needing to give them that. They already represent using Easter renewal and that turning a new leaf, and at the same time, production, fertility, creating more, and so they already had that, which was great, and then they were really just fun to play with and to keep a cohesiveness within the work and create that pop culture feel by repeating them and putting them with everything. So,
how did you decide to put the wolf in the middle of all the bunnies?
Well, I again started with the rabbits, and they're so fun and childlike. I put those in, and then it just didn't have enough depth at the same time. I wanted it not just to be this really playful thing, but also show some dimension and show that you're drawn to it. It's playful, but then there's also this obvious, but sort of I don't know. It's just as obvious. He's a predator, but it just it just worked with the whole idea of it being good and bad.
Oh, where did all the McDonald's stores come from?
Lots of thrift shops, family with children, friends that work at daycares, driving around. I did not eat that many fast food. I think people are shocked. Did you eat that many Happy Meal toys? Or Happy Meal? I just drove around and collected them for a long time. I started that in the beginning of the summer and wasn't even sure how I wanted to use them when I started collecting them. I just knew that they were going to be important. So.
Who made the ceramic bunnies?
I did. They're each individual, but then they all are kind of together as a piece. But they're all sold individually. They're all spray painted.
Are they supposed to have kind of a money theme going on, with the names?
Yeah, all their names are slang for money. Again, pop culture, the consumption. So.
Do you plan on continually designing more clothes?
Yeah, I think so. And I might not just use paper. I'm kind of sick of hot glue. So I used a lot of hot glue for this project because it used to have a center base you had to use wood from my parents got a new deck, so I repurposed all the wood, built this base, and then started hot gluing things. And so I think if I continued with the clothes, which interests me, it would be, I don't know, something different. Maybe even try doing stuff with fabric, even though I'm not great at sewing, but I would definitely be interested in learning or knitting or some other 3D form that has texture. So.
I've noticed that some years they have body figures, but then others are just body parts. Is there any reason behind the separation, or is that just
the reasons behind why I did some full figure ones? I think again it's just the representation of the specific person and that characteristic. For example, that one that green one has 3 figures on it. There's a woman with her back and like shoulder and head at the very top on the top panel. Then there's the torso and head of a woman in the middle, and then there's a leg and a foot on the bottom one. And that one is supposed to be representing a constancy and growth and groundedness. And the reason I chose those figures in particular were to represent almost like a tree, that there's like the rootedness, which I saw kind of made out of the leg and the foot, and then the strength in the torso and the head, and then bearing fruit, bearing wisdom, bearing knowledge through like a back and like the head. And so it all like is representative of each person, but for example, like, certain body parts like the mouth, that one was supposed to be like cheerfulness, so I thought, what is the part of the body that I think best represents cheerfulness? And I thought the mouth that speaks words of encouragement, laughter, smiling, so that's why I chose the mouth. So it depends on the characteristic. So.
What's the significance of these 4 being white and that one being colored?
Really, I started with them all colored, and it felt really overwhelming. It was just aesthetics. It was overwhelming when we have so much color going on that it was a way to tone it all down. And then you kind of stop looking at each and every little thing, and you look at it more as a structure. And I thought that was kind of important, but they were too fun to do all of them, so I wanted some color.
For both of you, which piece was the most difficult to construct?
To construct? Well, my large self-portrait, it's 4 by 8 feet, and I had to build a stretcher, so I bought plywood, but then the plywood ended up being too thin. And so then I had to buy 1x2s and construct a stretcher to be able to hold it, and stretching the canvas onto the stretcher took like 3 hours because I messed up on part of it. I had to take it all off, and it was just massive. It was just really heavy and hard to move around, and the way I paint is I lay all the canvases on the ground and I pour. So like lifting it up and putting it down and moving it around is really hard. So I ended up just I took the canvas off and ended up stapling it to the wall and then building the frame around it because it's just big. I mean, construction-wise, I don't have as much of a problem because mine are all kind of canvas and paintings, but that was the most important.
Yeah, I think mine are just tedious. I mean, it wasn't that any single thing was particularly difficult. It's just like folding all these little accordion worms that you do. Again, like something I did as a kid when you're sitting in school and you fold them back and forth with your notebook ends. And so it's just tedious stuff, but not specifically difficult, time consuming. Yeah.
Which one's your favorite for both of you?
Favorite? And this may have to do with the order they were created in, because after something sits in a small space for a long time, you start to kind of like what's newest. So probably the sculptures, just because I completed those at the very end, and so there's maybe just because they're so new to me still, that's my favorite at the moment.
And for me, my favorites are this triptych piece, the blue one, and then there's a hot pink and hot orange one in there that are both my favorite. I enjoy the process of drawing on top of the paint instead of painting on top of the paint. I just really like the style of it, the anatomy, and just really showing the full figures and the muscles. I really enjoy doing that. So those 2 pieces are my favorites.
Thank you very much for coming to our gallery talk. I'm sure the artists will be able to stick around a little bit if someone wants to have more casual conversation. Thank you very much.